Thank you so much, Melinda. Okay, so here we are. I will ask for you to mute your mics until it's time for us to chat, so that we can avoid having any errant noises on the recording. If you could go ahead and do that for us, that would be great. Okay, so here we are, excuse me, managing the multi-level ESL class. This is webinar 2. And over the last couple of weeks, we have covered the thought process or priming you to begin thinking about your multi-level lesson that you're gonna submit at the end of week 4. And you have already hopefully implemented some strategies that were identified in week 1 and 2, like likability and crossability pairing, and watch the videos on the multi-level ESL activity. So our agenda for today, excuse me, is of course welcome and agenda. So here we are. We're going to talk more about likability groups, crossability groups, stations, lesson planning, and the WPEA review, and then we'll wrap up. So online, we learned about likability practices. Now we'll address and plan for some of the logistical aspects of implementation. So in likability grouping, you as the teacher work with each group. You're going to rotate your groups and assign tasks to each group to work together. And just had a show of hands or yeses if you can use your reactions or yeses in the chat. How many have already had a chance to see the video about likability? Okay, good. I see a hand. Okay, thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, hands up. Thank you. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to see if you had seen them already. So some examples for a low beginning class, for example, you would have them draw a picture about the vocabulary word that they've selected. Then you could have them label that photo or that image. For a high beginning ESL, an example would be to find the definition of the word to use it in a simple sentence. And for an intermediate or high, you could provide them with a closed reading activity using vocabulary words and have them use it in a paragraph about the topic. Some other strategies for working with a likability group is to set a timer for them to do their task, for example, 20 minutes. Each group will have a time manager and have them choose an evaluation, and then you would choose an evaluation for each group. So for example, with an ESL beginning low, what did you draw? What is the name of what you drew? What is the definition of? And then insert vocabulary, for example. For intermediate level, what is the context of the word? And for advanced, what is the main topic and the details of your paragraph? What is your supporting evidence? So for the likability practice activity in the ESL multi-level model lesson, how might an instructor form likability groups? So this is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts in the chat. How might an instructor form likability groups? Okay, same level. Yes. Thank you, Maya. Any other ways that you can group your students by likability? Oh my goodness. I went so fast, so far. This is those moments when I'm like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, but here we are. How might you form likability groups? Okay, groups that have possibly been from the same speaking of a native language. Okay, same knowledge and skills, a slip of the thumb. You're right, Maya. Thank you for your understanding. Okay, here's another question. What student roles can there be in likability groups? What student roles can you assign in a likability group? Okay, note taker. Beautiful. Okay, leader, speaker, note taker, timekeeper, reporter. Excellent. 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 Great. Okay. What strategies or tools can be used to scaffold language instruction for a likability group? What strategies or tools can be used to scaffold language instruction for likability groups? Sentence frames, wonderful. No role play, okay, great. Any others? Information gap, okay, very good. All right, next question. Okay, one more response. Beginners have more functional roles in the groups. True. Okay, very good. So next question is, what are some interpersonal skills that students might need when they're working together in this activity? Interpersonal skills. Okay, to be social and more open. Thank you, Steve. Okay, respect. Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, communication. Share personal information and listen to each other. Absolutely. Be a good listener. Yes, very good. These are all excellent. Okay, so what are some tools that you can use to teach these skills? What are some tools that you can use to teach these skills? Okay, a facilitator, modeling. Yes, modeling. Thank you. Mhm. Any others? Visuals. Yes. Yes. If you haven't seen the video already, that video great gives some great examples of the extent to which you could go with visuals. Empathy for beginners. This is a great one, Steve. I was going to share an anecdote from or a story from when I taught ESL, and one of the first times that I put students into groups without being fully prepared for this and preparing the students. It was a cross ability group, and one of the students was very low, and there were others that were higher, of course, in the group. And one of the students was very rude to the lower level student. Her name was Esperanza, and the higher level student, I can't remember his or her name. I think it was a him, a man, and he said to her, so in Spanish, Esperanza means hope, right? And he said, there's no hope for you. And I was like, how could you do such a thing? But so this is a good example of preparing your students. And I went in blind. And so it's really important to set the stage for the expectations and then to also model, the respect. Of course, there are going to always be unkind and rude people, but, as much as possible, we want to create the norms, right, for the groupings. So something really important. So, how have you used likability grouping strategies in the past? Okay, peer work. Yes, dictation. Okay. And just out of curiosity, do you have the students dictating to each other? No, that wouldn't be, huh? That would be you dictating to each group. Okay, reading groups. Yes. Oh, to each other. Okay. Group discussions. Okay, great. These are awesome. Um, any others? Let's see here. Peer work, dictation, reading groups, phonetic sharing. Okay, Steve. Great. All right. Let's see here. Now let's transition into talking about cross-ability groups. I have another idea for like-ability groups, which are read aloud. So those are good ideas. Thank you. So cross-ability groups. In a cross-ability group, you're putting students together with multiple levels in the same group. So one group could be beginning low student, a beginning high, an intermediate, and an advanced student. And you have 3 to 4 people per group, which is 4 is the ideal. Each student takes a part to achieve the end result. And you as the teacher would having them in groups like this teaches the students um, work readiness or soft skills, transferable skills that they can use outside of the class, right? So in a cross-ability group, the goal is for the students to learn from each other, to collaborate, and to support each other. And again, we've talked about this a little bit online. It's also a way of building the community. So in a group, each person in the group has an additional task besides working on whatever the content is. So there could be a timekeeper, a note taker, a person who reads the information, so the speaker, and then a reporter who would be the one that would do the debrief with the whole class. And your role as a teacher is to facilitate and assist each cross-ability group. So how have you used cross-ability groups in our grouping in the past? So how have you used cross-ability grouping in the past? Thank you, Melinda. Would anyone like to come off mic, unmute, and speak out their ideas? So Steve says to review remedial vocabulary and phonology together. Michelle says group writing activities, writing about a picture. Maya says conditionals, 4 people in a group, read the question and share their responses. Projects, this is from Gohar, projects where different students are assigned different roles. Okay, so far, these are the responses I've gotten. Anyone else want to pipe in before we move on? Go ahead and move to the next. So one other response about the ability groups is to show one another how to use technology when using computers. This is a great example of using cross-ability grouping for sure. Okay, so we're going to discuss cross-ability grouping in the breakout. And so here's in your breakout, we're going to share with your colleagues. So there's going to be 3 or 4 people in each group, I think 4, based on how many we have here. And so these are questions you'll be discussing in your breakout room. So the first one is, what has been your favorite cross-ability group activity? So please share the name of the activity, how many learners in each group. Okay, Maya, we've got you. Thank you for the reminder. How many learners in each group? What is the cross-ability task or product? What is each learner's role in completing the activity? And what authentic language are students going to use? And then give an example. Okay, so this is what we're going to do in the breakout room. So I'm going to turn this over to Melinda to set up the breakout rooms and to arrange everyone. And she will display the questions in the breakout room. Okay.
She will after Estella. Stop
Yes,
sharing, but don't
after
do
I
it yet.
stop sharing. Okay.
Okay. So Maya, I have you going into the same room with your laptop and your phone. So both of those devices or those will go to the same room. So you're not hearing one thing and looking at another. I am going to open the rooms and Estella, quick check, 7 minutes for this?
Correct. Yes, thank you for the
Okay.
reminder. So you're going to be 7 minutes in your breakout room, so you have time to discuss this, and then when we come back, we'll do a debrief.
Alrighty. So here we go. If you get any message that says accept going to the breakout room, please say yes, and it will take you there. I've assigned everybody so that we can get people in this in where they need to be. Okay, here we go. Okay, everyone, you're coming back into the room. Just a reminder that everyone should be muted. If you're not, please set your mics to mute when you come in and wait for that instructions. Thank you. And Estella, everyone's back.
And recording is in progress.
It should be.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So let's debrief. So from your groups, who would like to share from group one, room one, some of the favorite group activities and what you all learned from each other?
I think we were
Unmute.
group one. Is that
We are
correct?
group one.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you like to share, Michelle?
You're welcome to do it. Go ahead.
Okay, so we shared the activities that we have done with our classes. So Michelle shared the activity that she did, and it was reading activity. And so she shared that lower level students actually responsible for finding information after reading the text were responsible for finding information for answering questions, and middle level students were the ones who were taking notes, and higher level students reported to the class their findings. So I shared the activity that I liked. It was community resources project, where lower level students were the ones who found information from the internet about community resources in Burbank. So, and higher level students were actually the middle ones presented to the class, and higher level students made a role play presenting the situation. And yes, and Maya shared that she had a similar activity, only hers was connected with global warming, and she had connected it with food, how this global warming affects the food chain. So yeah, it was interesting.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so how about room two, group two? Who's going to report for your group? What was what were your favorite cross ability grouping activities? Group two, where are you, my friends? Who was in group two? Was it Derek and Steve? Okay, you're.
I thought we were group three, but we were
Oh no,
talking
he's
about.
only group two. Yeah.
Okay. We were talking about, I mean, I started off with the suggestion about how I used the computers as a tool to get people to just talk about one specific thing, just being able to log on or off. And collectively, we seem to have the same situation where the three of us in our group had taught multi-level classes where we had kind of been initially thrown in there to do it. So and we, I think resume building was one, and then there was another suggestion about how to just place the roles based on, I think, people's mastery of the English language, so they could explain to other people And then I had suggested about the authentic language, just making sure they use the same descriptors or English descriptors to talk about whatever it happened to be. But I think the main thing was, you'd see, and the crossability task was just getting the same electronic device to come on so that they could all use it for different functions. And each person's role was different. So somebody who had a little bit more experience in the intermediate or advanced level of English speaking, they could possibly talk about the roles, the proper name for like a mouse or a keyboard or a certain key or how to do something. And then the authentic language part is, like I said, is just using English to describe it. But the one thing our group really had in common was we had been kind of thrown into these different multi-level situations and had to swim or sink in
Yeah.
those things. So and I think all of us were from the very beginning had very little initial instruction on how to do that. So that's another reason why structurally something like this in this class is valuable to all of us, because I reevaluated some of my lesson plans I was doing most of it, but I didn't have these specific names on there. So I wanted to understand how they categorize those officially in terms of our standards.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Stephen. So as you can see, you all are a great resource for each other. You are a wonderful resource, multi-level resource for each other. And so I thank you for your engagement and participation in that question. That was really good. So let's talk about stations in adult ed. So if you're coming from K through 12, you're probably familiar with the term stations. In adult ed, these are some examples of how you could use stations. And this would be, for example, peer support. So students work together on the same task. And that one would be more of a likability group. You could do a cross-ability station. Students are doing the same task, but at different levels or different roles. So for example, the note taker, the speaker, etc. You can also do independent work, or partner stations are some other examples. I know Steve had mentioned earlier too that tech could be another example of a use of accessibility, and that could be in a station. So who uses stations in their ESL classes? Let's discuss. You can come off the mute if you like. I'm just checking the time. And how do you use it? And why might it be good why might it be a good ESL strategy? So somebody was talking, sorry, Gohar.
I did stations, but mine was mostly discussion. So I had different questions in different corners of the room. So, yes, in every group there were multi-level students. So they were sharing their experience. So, and it was the questions were based on the book, Tuesdays with Maury. So philosophical, and they had their life experience. So they were, it was really nice.
Thank you for that example. Steve, did you have one you wanted to share?
Just like I teach MC3T multi-core curriculum, and sometimes people that have been in the trades, for instance, they would be in one group, and then people that were what I would call aspirational or wanted to be weekend warriors with some kind of vocation like learning carpentry or woodworking or something like that. They'd be in another group, but collectively they would be learning like different vocabulary or just really sharing experiences and also sharing aspirations, because again, there's different people with different backgrounds in the group. It allows everybody to learn from one another, and that's indirectly a good way to collaborate within a class and kind of create some unity.
Thank you. And for those who don't know what MC3, is it MCT3? Is it a basics, computer basics type? Uh,
Multi-core curriculum. It's for just like teaching, giving you a cross section, like just a foundation. It's the trades futures people,
okay.
CTWI. They're the ones that give you the certificates. They give the student certificates, and then as
Hmm.
instructors, we have to get a certificate in order to teach the class. But it's all foundational stuff, and it would be for a multi different areas of vocation. The funny thing is most people say, "Oh yeah, I'm construction." But there's 1,000 different jobs in construction.
Yes,
So
very true.
it's very funny to hear people describe themselves as that.
Great, thank you. So, I think I heard you mentioned how you used it and why it might be a good ESL multi-level strategy. So you're using stations and you're using them for getting your students to talk to each other and have authentic conversations. Is that correct? And learning from each other?
Yeah, I do. I think in some of my classes, I have some people that speak very little or no English because they've just come to this country in a short time. And then you have people that I say will speak Spanglish or they speak some level of Spanish and English. Luckily, I speak Spanish myself, so I ask them how long they've been in the country. And when they tell me 3 years or 5 years or more, then I know they know how to understand some English and they know a lot of English words, but they may have oftentimes been in the same job for a long time. And the reason is because they can't speak any English. So I give that as an objective or a target for them to learn English better. And they agree with that. I said, this is the reason that you're still in that same position, possibly in your company, is because you never learned the other part of English. And they understand it very clearly. But they can also help in an environment like this, a multi-level, is I use those people to help with vocabulary with the others and they understand the pronunciation of it. They've just never been in a position where they've had to enunciate or learn phonetics themselves.
Great, thank you. So you're using it to help peer support and build confidence
Absolutely.
with students. Great, thank you. Okay, now let's talk about ESL multi-level lesson planning. So as we get started on the instructional activities, let's refresh our memories of the parts or the steps in WPAEA. So what are the stages in a WPAEA or WPIA lesson plan? So we're going to start with,
Can I say? Or
yes, go ahead, Gohar. Mm-hmm.
so WPAEA, W stands for warm-up activity, warm-up. So I is for introduction, P, mm, presentation, then practice, evaluation, and application.
Excellent, thank you. So here we go. Warm-up review, introduction, presentation, practice, evaluation, and application. So thank you, Gohar. So for the warm-up, this is what you're going to tap into your students' prior knowledge. In the introduction, you're going to share broad overview of the content objectives using, for example, the CCRS or so that would be the College and Career Readiness Standards or the English Language Proficiency Standards, ELPS. And in the presentation, you're making the content comprehensible to all levels. So this is where you're teaching the lesson and teaching the content. The practice is usually guided. This is where you're going to do group work with crossability or likability groupings. And then you get into communication practices where they're using the um, skills in their groups. And I think communication practice was supposed to be indented so that we don't confuse it with one of the letters in WPAEA. So, and then once you get to the evaluation, you're assessing what your students have learned. And then the application is using those skills outside of the classroom, for example, and being able to share back in the classroom what their experience was. So with a multi-level ESL lesson plan, you're going to put your students first into likability groups for the content. You'll use the crossability groups for students to be able to become experts in their content area and then share with the others. You also use crossability groups for fluency, and then You also want to ensure that you're giving your students roles when they're, especially in any group setting, but for sure, make sure that the role that you've assigned to a student in a cross-ability group matches their abilities, right? So the timekeeper could be the easiest one for a lower level student to do. So here we have the multi-level lesson planning form. Excuse me. You'll see at the top that you have the class objective, and then you'll be able to state the objective for each of the levels. So for those of you who are using textbooks, you can find those usually those objectives. I'd noticed somebody was talking about it online, and a lot of textbook series have the same theme, for example, in every level for the same chapter, right? And so these are some clues to where you can find your lesson objectives. Another would be, I think Rebecca mentioned in the online grouping, sorry, in the online forum to use the English language proficiency standards, because that's another place that will help you to find the language you would want to use for the objective, and it's leveled, right, for you already. So here in the form, you have the warm-up review section, the introduction, the presentation, and then the practice by level. And here's an example of a completed multi-level lesson plan. So you can see in the practice, the advanced students are working in groups of 3 to create a role play about the robbery. Intermediate students are in groups of 3 to sequence photos. This is from the video lesson. And then the beginning students work with dialogue. And in this example that we had, the students were working with the classroom, the teacher's assistant. So that was really helpful for the teacher. So here you can see the different ways that the students are practicing in likability groups or cross-ability groups, and then how they're each evaluated. I'm looking at my second screen because I can see my presentation much larger over here. So what resources have you used to build or develop a multi-level lesson plan? So we share a lesson plan template that you'll be able to use to develop your multi-level lesson plan, but we're just going to tap into each other and to the hive mind, because as you've learned, we learn a lot from each other. So Steve says whiteboards. So this is a resource that Steve has used to develop a multi-level lesson plan, Promethean board. Okay, so an interactive digital board, very good. What other resources have you used to build or develop a multi-level lesson plan? Conversation cut cards. Okay. So resources to build or develop a multi-level lesson plan. Vocabulary games, flashcards. Okay, great. These are great examples of activities that you can use in a multi-level activity. But what about the lesson planning? What resources have you tapped into to help you build your lesson plan? Okay, Burlington English lesson plans. Yes, these are already pre-made for you, right? Ready to go. And that's really helpful to have it already set up, differentiated, right? Anyone else? Is anyone using any of the newer technologies perhaps to help you with your lesson planning? Maya says AI. Yes. We have things at our fingertips now that we didn't have 10 years ago, right? And yes, you can definitely teacher's guides from the textbooks. Yes, Derek, very good. A lot of the textbooks that I've seen had great teacher's guides that were leveled, even within a single level class. I've seen the activity set up for multiple levels. So Steve uses reading horizons. Okay. Yeah, the teacher's guides are another great resource if you're using a textbook series, for example. Okay, moving on. So Picture Dictionary, Venture Text has multi-level activities for likability and crossability. Oh, that's nice. It's already set up for you, huh? Very cool. All right, let's look ahead. We're currently in week 3. So you're going to be working on the background reading part B. This is more about grouping strategies, whole group, likability, and crossability, and then selecting materials. And all of this we're building up towards your creation of the multi-level lesson plan that you'll submit in week 4. So in week 3, an additional activity you'll have is the podcast 3, 4, and 5. So podcast 3 is the art of orchestrating a multi-level class. Podcast 4 is group work that works, part 1. And then podcast 5 is group work that works, part 2. Then you'll begin developing your single multi-level lesson plan with differentiated objectives and learning activities. So you want to start preparing yourself for that. And then due in week 4 will be your lesson plan. And you also want to give feedback to your colleagues. So I recommend, I don't remember right off the top of my head the day that the lesson plan is due, but shoot for the Wednesday. You want to do your best to get your lesson plan done next week by Wednesday so that then you and your colleagues have a chance to read each other's lesson plans and give feedback and explore additional resources for multi-level instructors. And there's some material that's also in the workroom. I was noticing that today. Okay, so what has been the most helpful so far from this webinar today? What has been most helpful? You can put your thoughts in the chat or use your microphone. Okay, peer experiences. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Gohar. Everything. Thank you. Any others that you can think of? Hearing different crossability grouping activities, camaraderie, and teacher support in the breakout rooms. Yes. And the sharing. Yeah, absolutely. I always think about how our the facilitated online courses are, and in this case, it's a microcosm, right, of a crossability grouping or likability grouping, right? Our breakout sessions are definitely crossability, but it's great to see how, when we work together, the benefits of it so that we can also see that benefit for our students. I see another comment, lesson plan, resources, and grouping strategies. So these are the most helpful items from the webinar. Thank you all for sharing. Okay, so this is a reminder that if once you have successfully completed your course, your facilitated online course, you can apply for CEUs through Cal State University Sacramento's College of Continuing Education for a fee. So how do you claim a CEU? And this is where you would reach out to and or respond to Adria. Kata, is it Kata? Katia. Sorry, Katka, my apologies. So yeah, so Melinda has put her email address in the chat. So it's akatka, akatka at air.org.
And since we have some time, Estella,
Yes.
if anyone has any questions regarding CEUs, feel welcome to ask them, or you can also email us with questions. But as Estella has mentioned, this course will be eligible for CEUs. This is a 14-hour course. So in terms of CEUs, that translates into 1.4 CEUs per Sacramento State's conversion, however they convert that. And so what will happen is after you complete this course, which would mean completing all the activities, attending the webinars, for those of you who weren't able to attend today, that would mean completing the makeup assignments. After the course concludes, we will be reaching out to you, asking if you're interested in applying for CEUs. All you have to do is respond, yes, I'm interested, and then we send you the documentation that you need to get that process started with Sacramento State. And I see a question in the chat about salary step advancement. So I believe CEUs do count towards salary step advancement, but us at CalPro, we don't know if your agency accepts those. That's something that, you know, you would have to ask either at your district or if you have like a principal, for example, they would be able to tell you for sure if they would accept those. But if you already know that, then this class is eligible for CEUs. And I see another question, is the fee a one-time fee or for each course that we take? So for each course that you take, there will be a fee. And that is completely 100%, excuse me, handled by Sac State. So they let you know how much it is. And so that 1.4 CEUs, for example, would be between, I believe, $65 or $75 the last time that I checked on that. So I hope that answers your question. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
But my question is not about this course. I don't know if you're the right person to ask. So I took another course, Effective Lesson Planning. And so actually the course is over and I have submitted all the assignments, but I haven't heard back from them and I haven't received any feedback. So is there anything else I have to do, or maybe I've submitted in the wrong way that it's not visible? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. So what happens after, so Sunday was the last day for that particular course. So we give the facilitator a couple of days to finish grading whatever she needs to grade. So she's probably still in the process of finishing grading a couple of things. Once she's done with that, she lets us know who completed the course. And then what we do is we send you within 2 weeks, we send you a certificate of completion, but then sooner than that, we send you that CEU email to see if you're interested. So nothing for you to do on that part.
Thank you
As
very
of
much.
now, we're just waiting for the facilitator to finish grading things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. If there are no other questions, Melinda has popped my email into the chat. Feel free to email me regarding CEUs.